Everyone thinks Apple is about to fix the budget iPhone with the iPhone 17e. But when you actually line it up against the iPhone 16e, Apple changed a lot less than you think. And that is not by accident. Let's get into it. So based on everything we know right now, the iPhone 17e is coming in early 2026. Most likely February, but Apple could push it to March. Either way, this follows the exact same strategy Apple used with the iPhone 16e. A quiet spring launch, probably just a press release, no big keynote, and straight into stores. Now design-wise, Apple is playing it extremely safe. The iPhone 17e keeps the same 6.1-inch OLED display, which itself was basically a recycled iPhone 14 display, and the same single-camera layout as the iPhone 16e. So visually, this phone is still very much in the budget iPhone lane. But here is the one area where Apple might change things: the front. Multiple reports suggest Apple could finally bring Dynamic Island to the iPhone 17e, replacing the notch. And historically, it lines up perfectly. Dynamic Island debuted on the iPhone 14 Pro. Apple almost always waits 2 to 3 years before trickling these features down. So a 2026 budget iPhone getting Dynamic Island actually makes a lot of sense. Now before you get too excited, let's talk about what Apple is very clearly not changing. Color options are expected to stay limited, likely just black and white again. Simple, clean, cheaper to produce, and the display is still 60 Hz. No promotion, no always-on display, lower brightness, and weaker HDR compared to the flagship models. Apple is absolutely not budging here. This is where Apple pulls you back down to reality. And yes, this is going to annoy people, especially when Android phones at this price already offer 120 Hz displays. But this is classic Apple segmentation. Smooth scrolling is still locked behind the more expensive iPhones. Apple wants you to feel that gap, and that gap is completely intentional. The only visual improvement you might notice, except for the Dynamic Island, is slightly thinner bezels. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make the phone look a little more modern and a little less dated. Moving on to performance, because this is where Apple actually flexes. The iPhone 17e is expected to run on the A19 chip. But don't get it twisted. This is not the same A19 you will get in the flagship iPhone 17 models. Apple is almost certainly using an underclocked version with fewer GPU cores, so you still get A19 branding but not the full A19 experience. Still, even a capped A19 is going to outperform most mid-range Android chips. And more importantly, it guarantees long-term iOS updates and AI support for years. RAM stays at 8 GB, same as the iPhone 16e. And honestly, that is fine. Apple has always relied more on optimization than raw numbers. Plus, even the flagship iPhone 17 runs on 8 GB. So RAM will not be the bottleneck here. Now cameras. And this is where things stop being impressive. Same 48-megapixel single rear camera. Still no ultra-wide, no telephoto, no extra camera buttons. And for a lot of people, that is going to be frustrating. However, there is one possible upgrade. According to multiple reports, the iPhone 17e might get the newer 18-megapixel center stage selfie camera from the iPhone 17 lineup. If that happens, that is a nice quality of life improvement. But overall, on paper, this camera setup still looks weak compared to Android competitors that offer multiple lenses at this price. Now here is one of the biggest changes and honestly one of the smartest ones. MagSafe is coming back. Apple removed MagSafe on the iPhone 16e and got a ton of backlash for it. And rightly so. MagSafe is not just about charging. It's wallets, car mounts, battery packs, stands, and daily use accessories. The iPhone 17e is expected to bring MagSafe back with 15-watt wireless charging. That puts it neatly between the 16e and the flagship iPhone 17 models. And yes, this single change makes the phone feel dramatically less crippled. Under the hood, there is also a new modem. Apple is moving from the C1 to the newer C1X modem. This is part of Apple's long-term plan to fully cut ties with Qualcomm. Better efficiency, better battery life, and more stable 5G are the goals here. Apple has been working toward modem independence for almost a decade now, and this is another quiet step in that direction. But of course, there is cost cutting. The iPhone 17e will not include Apple's N1 Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chip. That stays exclusive to higher-end models. Pricing is expected to stay exactly the same, $599, and that is intentional. Apple does not want to confuse its lineup. It does not want the budget phone creeping too close to the flagship models. This price keeps everything predictable and controlled. So why does any of this actually matter? Early in the year, Android dominates with mid-range launches. The iPhone 17e exists to keep Apple relevant during that window, just to sell steadily. And that also explains why Apple is holding back features so aggressively. The moment this phone becomes too good, it starts eating into Pro sales, and Apple will never allow that. Now, speaking of Pro models, the iPhone 18 Pro Max leaks just took a massive and unexpected U-turn, and it matters. Click right here for a full breakdown. This is Techtics, and I will see you there.